Alright, Unit 8, Formative 1, Video 4 is factor by grouping. So this factoring is going to be a little different. There's going to be 4 terms. So you'll recognize that you're going to have to factor by grouping because there's more terms than the 3. Alright, so this one's a little different. You notice there's 4 terms. So the first one we're going to do when we group with 4 terms is we're going to group the first 2 together in a set of parentheses and the last 2 together. Okay. Now this is nice because there's a plus sign in between. If it were a negative, we'd have to factor a negative out. Okay. So now we're going to look at them separately. So we're going to look at the 18x to the third and the 12x to the second and find out what they have in common. Well, they have a 6 in common. And then our variables, they have an x and the lowest exponent is squared. Okay. So I'm going to factor out a 6x squared. Okay, now 18 divided by 6 is 3. And then I have an x to the third over x to the second. We subtract, which gives us x to the first. Negative 12 divided by 6 is negative 2. And my x's cancel. Okay, so there's the first one. Now let's look at the second one. We have 3x and 2. Now since it was a leading positive, we're okay. Okay, now 3x and 2, there's nothing that's going to factor into them. But for purposes of grouping, we are going to go ahead and factor out a 1. Okay, it's going to help us later. So this does not change when I factor out a 1. Okay, now a couple things. Okay. All right, so now if you look, something you need to recognize here is what's in parentheses should always be the same. If they are not, you did something wrong. Okay, so again, what's in the parentheses on both factorings has to be the same. The signs and the numbers. Okay, all right, so now for our answer, we are going to take the 2 things we factored out. Now, can you see where the one's going to come in handy? And we're going to group them together. And then we are going to take what they have in common and bring 1 down. Okay, and that is my answer. All right, let's look at another one. Okay, so again, 4 terms, we should recognize that. So I'm going to group my first 2, group my second. Again, it's a plus sign, so we don't have to factor out a negative. So 8p to the third and 2p, so 2, and then p to the second in common. All right, so that gets factored out. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, and I have a p left over. 2 divided by 2, or negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. And the p's cancel. Okay, plus, so 28 and 7. So 7 will go into both of them. They don't have p's. So 28p divided by 7 is 4p. And then negative 7 divided by 7 is negative 1. So again, if you notice, what's inside is the same. Okay, so my answer is going to be the 2 numbers I factored out times what they had in common, which is 4p minus 1. And that's your answer.